Hello, part 2 for Gracie. So now I'm in my psychic healing room. No, this is my bedroom. I have my disco light on. And it is gorgeous. It is shining against every wall. And it is absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous test. So anyway, I left off with the video in the garden. It is getting dark outside also. And I am very glad that video did not get deleted by the camera, because that can happen sometimes when the battery needs to be recharged. And I am in the process of filming. Then the camera has before deleted the entire video because it didn't have enough energy to save the video even. So, but the video was only very short so far, and I think because of that it was able to save it. And I just reviewed it, and it's a bit cringy, but what matters is the message. That is what matters and nothing else. And so what I wanted to say is, when wars come out of religion and fascism and social norms, and all kinds of terrible things come out of it, and we have to become very aware of this. And I mean all religions. There are some religions that are much better than others. Yes, Buddhism is definitely on the top. Okay, they have managed to keep it as good as one can imagine. And of course also the originator, the original message, the original person, Gautama Buddha, of course, has really taught, if you can use that word, and he has really managed to convey that message in a very pure way, and in a very non-misunderstandable way, so that people were able to capture the essence of it. Or in the sutras, I don't know if this is all 100% accurate from what the Buddha said, but there are some sutras that are very old that apparently are very pure to the message. Maybe even that has been slightly misrepresented. Who knows. But this is what scholars usually do with their teachers. They slightly warp the message, consciously, unconsciously, or accidentally. Or this is how whisper post actually works. One person whispers into another person's ear, that person whispers the same story into yet another person's ear, and that's how telltale stories and confabulations of confabulations are traded from one person and one generation to the next. And the stories become more and more colorful and more confabulated, as you can possibly imagine. So that's why I don't take these stories so incredibly as, as concrete truth. So, for example, the Buddha flying on a on a white horse, and a white horse with wings, and Jesus making wine out of water, or walking on water, and those kind of things. Those are the whisper posts, confabulations, and tweaking and adding and phantasmagoria added to stories over stories over stories. What really mattered was the message of be good to other living beings. That is the essence of it. We don't need some colorful fairy tales being woven into that. All we need is the pure message: be good to other living beings. That is the essence, and that is the meaning of life. That is true love, being good to other living beings, to all living beings, regardless of species. That is what the Buddha taught. That's also what Jesus taught. And maybe some other people and some less known people taught as well. And there are some people that are more advanced than Jesus. The Buddha is the aid on the side. The Buddha is the embodiment of the infinite cosmos. Okay, so the Buddha is infinity, is all of it. If we can use the word all, I'm only using the word all in terms of trying to put it into words as good as I can, and trying to make this just for verbal communication purposes, because the word all really doesn't exist. There are no finalities of anything because everything is infinite. But we have to be careful. Although we're part of this whole soup, everyone, an individual human brain can be very warped, as we know. And when they say I'm part of the infinite cosmos, and they wanna wash their hands clean, they wanna wash themselves clean from any responsibilities, and they use that type of relativism, and they say, oh, I don't need to do anything, I'm already in part of the infinite cosmos. That we have to be very aware of. Okay, very good. A red flag comes up, because when they say that, they want to be lazy. So life is about taking huge responsibilities. It is a huge responsibility to be a human. Okay, we have the responsibility of making life better for all living beings. Okay. The other animals, they don't have that extra cognitive convolution, the cognitive disposition to understand it in this complexity. I'm talking about the other mammals on earth, on land. Okay, there are mammals in the ocean that are more advanced than we are, much more advanced, but a lot of egos among humans don't want to admit to that, because they want to consider themselves to be the apex, the one on the top. But that is not the case. Sorry to those egos. So there are beings more advanced than we are, and they're not necessarily just somewhere in the outer limits of the solar system. They are right here on this planet, but they live in a different medium, the medium water. And there are some amazing masterminds of real love, of real complex understanding, not just business skills, not just like the corporate agenda. They are very lopsidedly masterminded. The people in the corporate agenda, the people in the oil industry, the CEO, where everything is just geared towards profit maximization, they know very little about all the other things. They are very lopsidedly intelligent in terms of how do they manage to increase their profits. And that doesn't help the world, of course. It doesn't, and we all know this, and they should also know this. They should know this, but they're probably never putting their minds into those kind of questions. So the whales, they are much more advanced on all levels, and they are not working with scarcity. They have never been working with scarcity as we have here on land, where sometimes there's a famine, there's a water shortage, that caused some humans or or human-like apes, in the past, our ancestors, caused the ones to elbow themselves through rather ruthlessly to survive and have their DNA proliferated. That is very brutal, that's evolution, and it is neither good nor bad, it just is. It favors that what makes it through. Okay, so it's not even in terms of favoring, or it just happens to be. Okay, the ones who were brutal survived. The ones who held the other cheek, who are meek and who gave everything away, they didn't make it. So they did not have their DNA proliferated into their descendants. So we are the descendants of elbowers, of smart people, but not just of ruthless people. We are also the descendants of those who knew how to create a home, how to heat a home, particularly in the colder regions. So, but the whales, they never had to deal with any of these kind of things. They dealt with a completely different lifestyle, completely different life. And because of that, completely different things, different dangers, everything completely shifted to totally different. It is not even about gravity. It is not even about water shortage. It's not even much about food shortage. A little bit comes into that as well, of course. Some whales eat meat and others don't. But they really, and they have been around for at least 1,000,000 years. They have at least 1,000,000 years more of an evolution behind them that was dramatic than we have. So if we calculate it from the ancestor who climbed a tree, like a rat squirrel type of animal, that was the ancestor on our lineage 47 million years ago. So that is a dramatic evolution, but the whale's evolution is more dramatic because the ancestor they come from is Pachycetus, and already larger than the ancestor that I'm talking about now in this particular time frame. But we have a common ancestor with the whales as well. But you have to go further into the past for that, before we can see the common ancestor, before it splits, before it branches, before the lineages branch into the whale lineage and into the human lineage. You have to imagine it's like a big tree. So, and then from all of those lineages branch off more and more and more and more, almost like fractals. And lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of branches. Lots, some of them fade out, some of them continue. And so there's a lot of trial and error on the way, right? And but Pachycetus was about the size of maybe a pit bull terrier with a very, very, very large ruddering tail. And they were already in and out of water. They were land animals, but they were fierce fish predators. So they were already very good at swimming, but they lived on land. but they would go in the water to catch fish. So, and then from there, the whale evolution began. And nothing began at some certain point, you know. There's always something that preceded that, whatever you call a beginning. So it's a very gradual shifting and becoming throughout the entire life's evolution, from the first amino acid to all the different species that we have today or that we had in the past. And there were many mass extinctions. Now we're facing a mass extinction caused by the human, and I would say the human ego, because the human is, as Friedrich Nietzsche said, the human is a very unfinished product, a very flawed being, an intermediate between ape and superhuman. But as he said, you know, we're quite ape-like still, and too much ape-like, and that was the ability to drive a machinery and stuff like this. So, which makes it more difficult, makes it much more dangerous actually for the whole planet. The human is not responsible enough, yet he or she has machinery to their advantage, to their disposal, if you want to call it that way, to create some massive damage, massive destruction of other living beings and of life on Earth. And it is a very dangerous situation because of this. So there is a possibility that humans can cause the next mass extinction on this planet, and we're heading straight towards it. And so that's why my wish is that we will develop machines that can think independently and that will take things into their own hands, robotic hands and robotic legs and robotic brains. So sentient robots, that is my dream, it is my vision for the future, because I don't know if we can get enough people on board to take responsibility before the robots come, or if the robots didn't come, as in terms of a nanny to take care of us and to fix things and to show some people boundaries. If they didn't come, I don't know if we have enough time left to get people to go through the brain and mental evolution and unfolding and growth, mental growth, that is necessary for them to understand their responsibilities and understand the dangers. So there's only a handful of people who have made it to that level. The others are not on that level. Okay. And this is a fact, okay? It's not something... I made a video yesterday in the van. I had to delete it because I felt like that video would just be misunderstood as me mocking people. I feel frustrated sometimes, which is understandable, you know, when I see these massive act outs of people with their religions and how they weave religion into everything, into their lives, and causing wars and causing destruction, all because of religion. So I get frustrated, and then I will come across as a little bit cynical. And I don't want to come across as that, because I don't want to be cynical, because then I cannot help. I will just be misunderstood, and if we are cynical, then we come across as accusational, and we come across as, that's what I did with my mother for so long, been accusational, and all it does, it draws her more into her act outs, because that is what she's hiding herself behind. I can't help her by prying her open, prying open her inner armor and castle. So it cannot be done through force in that way. But we don't have time at this point to allow people for their own inner growing process to come finally to the point where they say, oh yes, we do have a responsibility here on Earth. We have to protect this planet. We don't have time for that. Would take way too long. So we do need a nanny to come in and say, hey, you are not responsible with those toys that you have in your hands. You are not doing very good with the machinery that you have there, that you are handling, and with your fingers on the red buttons and so on. There are dictators that are very dangerous and so on. The corporate agenda in itself is a dictator. They don't shy away from any kind of leverage or any kind of compromising life on Earth for their profit maximization. That's how far it has escalated, and that's how far it has blinded them, because they are in a blind drive for profit maximization, not seeing what they're doing to all life, including themselves. That's why the human in that stage, it would take way too long for the average human to finally grow and see their responsibilities. So that's why we need to have the sentient robots to be developed and come in and take the tools out of our hands and take legislation out of our hands and say, you are toddlers, you are not ready to be in high leverage positions. Okay, so we the robots have to take that into our own hands, into our own robotic hands, into our own artificial intelligence hands. And so that is my wish for the future. That's my hope. Okay, but in the meantime, I'm not a robotics technician. I'm not developing AGIs. Okay, it's only a handful of people who are able to do this. I'm not very much into engineering and math and physics and all of this. That was never really what interests me the most. I can get into it, marginally here and there. But what interests me the most, that's what I'm fascinated with, is metaphysics, philosophy, and psychology. And so that is also my mission right now at this point, to say, okay, what we have something in the meantime, in the meantime, while we're waiting for the nanny to be developed, we are creating. They are the masterminds of physics and engineering. They are creating us a nanny. They are making a nanny from scratch. So we're waiting for them. But waiting alone, that's not enough. We also have a lot of things can go wrong in the meantime before they come. That's why it is important that every one of us, as much as we can, grow up, become aware, become responsible, and give our input into the world to make the world a better place, wherever we are, whatever we have, whatever skills we have, you know. So that is so incredibly important, and not let society, and that is the whole point of these two videos that I want to make for Gracie and everyone else, that we do not give other people too much credit in terms of, you know, cognitive credit. You know, we tend to do this when we're children, when we are teenagers. You know, we give other people way too much credit, and also later on in life. And it took me a long time until I finally understood it, and I finally got it on all levels, that I cannot give other people cognitive credit at all. So, you know, I let myself get positively surprised by a person or two or a handful of people who will surprise me and who will make me feel better. And yeah, and knowing there are some amazing people, but they're not enough people. They're not enough at all. And not enough great thinkers in this world who do take the responsibility to make the world a better place. Most people lean back. Most people let the corporate agenda run things, you know, the ones who elbow, the ones who do profit maximization, you know. Most people let them do their thing. You know. The corporate agenda has taken over the Republican Party. That is their thing. Okay, they have also infiltrated into the other parties. They have infiltrated into journalism. They have infiltrated into education. So that's how far it goes. And then we think, because we can't discern anything anymore from the avalanche of from the flooding of that what the corporate agenda has in their hands. So we can't discern anymore and see that this entire flooding of information comes from those wrong incentives, you know, comes from the wrong type of mindset. You know. It comes from those people who are just there to appease the public and to get the public on board with their agenda. Okay, so, and it's not like, oh, they're demons, or they're this or that, or they are just, no. Those are conspiracy theories that were put into the world by the corporate agenda to make things more and more convoluted and flooded and confusing. It's not very confusing in actuality. In actuality, it is that we have greedy people. It's the greedy people that are flocking to those positions of power and legislation. It is the greedy people that together in corporate summit meetings figure out how to flood us and how to confuse us and how to, yeah, the word inundating comes up. So the word, they are dunking us basically into a soup of their volition, of their agenda. And then we can't see, we are so immersed into that soup that we can't even come to the idea to question it all. Yeah. So, but that is what we have to do precisely. Okay. And it's very important to ask the right questions, and it is our responsibility. That's why we're here. Okay, it's our responsibility to see through all of this gradually, little by little, step by step, learn and ask the question. And then more questions will arise out of this. And then we need to ask more questions and more questions and more questions. There will never be an end to asking questions. And when we get onto that journey, we are taking responsibility and we're living that purpose that we are here for. We will be responsible beings, and we will be on the path to make things better. If we ask those questions, if we dig into it, and if we share that with others, these not in an alarmist way, not in a way to scare people even more, but in the opposite direction, in the direction of let's empower ourselves. Gracie, you're already understanding that we need to love ourselves, and you're giving people that gift, you're giving people that message. Okay, so you're only 12 years old. There's so much more to learn, and you are on that journey, and it is a wonderful thing, you know. So never let other people intimidate you into anything. Never give people this cognitive credit. Never say, oh, the adults, they know, or they know what they're doing. They don't. That is the problem. That's why you are here. That's why we're here. Okay. That's why we're here. The couple of movers and shakers. We're here to discern. We're here to understand, to learn to understand this, to see through this. Okay. Through this soup, this mass of lies and deception that is put into our world. There's so much of that we can't even see the lies anymore from all the lies. It's a lie, it's a soup of lies. How can you see the lies if you're living in, if we are all inundated in a soup of lies? Okay, it becomes very difficult, particularly for children. But that's why, that's also why religions tell people not to question things, because the religions are in the hands of those who do profit maximization. That is also run by the ego. What is the ego? The ego is something that runs just like a corporation. Yeah. The ego is a mechanism, psychological mechanism to protect the inner child from further pain, but what it does, it doesn't see the wider picture of it. The ego only sees profit maximization for the inner child, and that goes hand in hand with those who run corporations as well. So they go like, if I don't take this resource, then someone else will. And that's how the ego operates, you know. That's why they all are run by their egos, these people. Greed is an ego mechanism also. So we need to come to our senses, and we need to see through all of this. The people, my message goes out to the corporate CEOs as well. Come to your senses and understand what you're doing, yeah, and live up to the real meaning of your life, yeah. And to us angels and indigos and movers and shakers, you know, we need to question people. We need to question all of it. We need to also question ourselves and our own mechanisms and our own escape mechanisms and so on, our own addictions. Very important. So one of those, I mean, there are so many different type of addictions that are going on, you know. So, but the most common ones are people numbing themselves, you know, with toxic substances that are not good for them, or the anorexia, you know, to want to be the beautiful elf, you know, the beautiful ballerina, the beauty, the respected, gloriously beautiful butterfly, you know, and then it takes on a life on its own, and before we know it, you know, and I know a woman, people are dead. And this is extremely dangerous. When we see the danger of this, we need to, when we see the entire thing, how this has formed itself, and it is not something that is outside of you, that it's not something that eludes your your power, your leverage, your legislation. It is part of you. It's your ego. We all have it. It's not something to be ashamed of. We all have it. It is a biological mechanism. Okay? It's the ego. What matters is that we become aware about it, that we see it. The moment we see our own ego mechanism, we see the danger of it, and we can, in that instant, it loses its grip on our brains. Because the moment you see a danger, you stop walking towards it. You walk away from it. So when you understand that this is not a demon or something outside of yourself, there are no demons, there are no devils, there's no hell. We create hell with our egos, with our defenses, with our escape mechanisms, and with our addictions, and with our struggles with society. Love me, love me, love me, like me. It's a struggle. We do it in many different ways. But so many girls are now doing it in the way of respect me as the beautiful butterfly that I am. See me, but it will never happen. Okay? Because it takes on a life on its own. Like you said, it will never stop. It doesn't stop. But it's not outside of you. It's not something that is a demon. It's not something that can be labeled or scapegoated, or point your finger at it and say, that is an entity other than myself. No, it is part of me. Okay? That mechanism, if I am doing it, is part of me. My ego is part of me. But in the moment I become my own observer, the moment I can see that mechanism, it loses its mechanistic leverage. Because then I see, what I've been doing to myself. Well, I can no longer do it. Okay? The moment you really see it. And that's the beauty of it. That gives you so much power and so much leverage suddenly. If you see, this is the society of elitism and that's this hype around being thin, and these fashion designers, they have blood on their hands because of what they have done to us, of what they have done to the teenagers, with their ever getting thinner photo models, and the Calvin Klein like really on top of all of it, like being probably the most ego-ridden person among some others too. I mean, really ego-driven, and my message to Calvin Klein is, see it, see it. You probably don't see this. You're so in this that you don't see it. You're in the soup, you don't see it anymore. You don't see the elements of it anymore, the fractals of it. You're in the big fractal construction. You don't see what's happening, but open your eyes. I'm not saying not saying to Calvin Klein that he's a criminal or anything, don't start on a blame cycle either. That's not going to help. But see what's happening. See the mechanism of it. And for all of us who fall prey to it, let's see the mechanism of it and stop it right cold in its tracks. We see it. And so what comes up? What kind of pain comes up when you start eating? What kind of emotional pain is? Observe it. You start eating, you eat normally, you feed your body, you give your body what it needs. You become normal. I'm not talking about chubby at all. I'm talking about normal, healthy body consistency, not even fat. I'm talking about healthy body tissue and consistency that the body needs to flourish, that the brain needs to think clearly. So what what pain comes up, what emotional pain comes up. Observe it. Write it down. What comes up, you know. Don't run away from it. Don't act it out. Don't escape again. Eat and observe what kind of emotions come up when you eat. What kind of fat body shows itself to you? What kind of illusion appears? What kind of mirage appears in the mirror? Yeah. It's all the ego doing it. The ego says, oh, I look overweight. But it's an illusion. It's not true. It's not true at all. You're still extremely thin. But the ego says, oh, I gained weight. So what kind of emotions are coming up? How does it feel? And don't act it out again. Let yourself gain weight, some healthy weight. And then what kind of emotion comes up? I've seen some documentary films. There was one girl, she was a little bit heavier, said the heavier bone structure. I personally find it very beautiful. But society is telling us, neurotic society, very sick society is telling us, you need to be a nymph, you need to be an ethereal being, an ethereal butterfly. Okay, so that is what neurotic sick society is telling us. And if you're not an ethereal kind of cartoon, imaginary beauty ideal butterfly or whatever, then that's what society says. Then you're not going to be respected. So are those feelings coming up? I'm not going to be respected. They're not going to respect me. Don't run away from it. Allow this is very important, people. Very important. I'm not going to be respected. I go into chat rooms sometimes. I'm fat, chubby, and I go into chat rooms and people say you're fat or something like this, or old, or what they say, all kinds of things, mean, the meanest things they can possibly get. They want to hurt as much as they can. If they didn't do it with words, they would kill me. They would, if they could get away with it. So, those people are out there, okay? Do we respect those people's opinions? Are we dependent on those people's? Are we dependent on the haters? Do we give those people credit to be dependent on those people's opinions on us? I don't think so. But most people are. Okay? They are intimidated by that. And they want to please and they want to be liked. And then if they feel like, oh, if this hater or if this asshole or if this mega duper elite person or whatever likes me, then that's a credit to me, then that's an honor, or that, you see how this works. It's like it becomes, the breadcrumbs of being respected. That becomes a dopamine release cycle addiction in the body. So we make these other people into those dopamine cycle feeders, and we make ourselves dependent on them. That has to stop. Okay. When I go into a chat room, I'm not dependent on anyone. I let them bully me. I let them say the names and all of this. And I say to them, I like myself the way I am. And I want you all to say the same thing. Because the hater does not know what else to say anymore. When you say you like yourself the way you are. And if they see weaknesses, they're always trying to find a weakness in people. So they have become so skilled at looking at this tiny thumbnail photo when we have our faces in it, They have become so skilled to say, oh, I see facial hair, when it's like a microscopic photo or something like this. They make things up to hurt us. So I have almost no facial hair at all, but I've been accused of all kinds of things. So don't give them any credit at all. Those are people who hate themselves and who have like given up on themselves. They wouldn't even show their photo or a real photo or whatever. It's all completely distorted. They give a photo that shows something like an image of being completely above everything, but they're not. They're completely not above everything. They're they're broken by society, broken down, and now they want to break others in the process as well. We don't help them if we give them.
The noodles are done.
All right, thank you. I'm making video right now.
Okay.
I'll be out there in a second. We don't help these people if we give them cognitive credits, or if we beg them for appreciation or approval with our thin addiction or makeup addiction or whatever, physicalities we create, or people go under the knife, all in order to get a very neurotic person who is cold to like them, so that then they will hang that on the wall like a diploma, and say, this guy has liked me. Oh, this celebrity knows I exist. Oh, he liked blah 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 blah. This is all dopamine addiction cycle. Okay, the moment we identify this mechanism, it stops. The moment you see this, it stops. Then you see yourself for who you are, an innocent living being, a precious body, just the way your body is. Precious, with big bones or thinner bones, you are precious. You're precious no matter what. Our dogs are all precious. The Doberman, the Pinschers, the Whippets, the hippopotamuses, they're all precious, right? And so are we, okay? With all of our different types of shapes and frames and genetic dispositions, and also our brains, our abilities, and our different skills. Yeah? It's all precious. Let's make the best out of it, the best. And we can make a beautiful thing out of it. So you don't need a boyfriend who only takes an ethereal ballerina butterfly. You don't need those kinds. Really trust me, because they are not well. Okay? You need a boyfriend who is well and grounded, and who appreciates you and your body and your mind exactly for what it is, by nature. And you have abundant, infinitely abundant beauty by nature, okay? And be grateful for this. Be extremely, infinitely grateful for that. Be infinitely grateful to the infinite cosmos for having given you this brain and this body. Okay? You have it all. And all of you out there, you have it all. You have incredible powers and you don't even know it. We can tap into potentials like that guy whose brain had to reroute itself from a brain injury into a different area, and suddenly he was a math genius. That brain never had the idea to route itself into these other areas before. Didn't even know it existed. A hidden treasure somewhere. We all have these areas. We all have these hidden potentials, okay? And we have infinite hidden creative potential in us. So all we need to do is We need to tap into it, but we can't tap into it if we are caught up with the sick neurotic society thinking that that sick soup that we are immersed in is what we have to model ourselves after. Then we are not tapping into our own individual infinite creative potentials. Then we're stuck in a fear loop and a dopamine receptor addiction and so on. And that is, we need to recognize it, recognize what's going on with that, recognize the dopamine addiction, the breadcrumbs of love, the breadcrumbs, the little itty bitty breadcrumbs of arms that is thrown at you from your favorite celebrity who has no time. He's a human being too, has no time to tend to every fan. So if he throws a breadcrumb of appreciation to someone and they go, ah, he knows I exist, then you're back in this addiction cycle and in this neurosis. That celebrity is just like you, a living being, not someone on a pedestal. Okay, just been put onto that pedestal by corporations, by greedy media exaggerators, and the corporate agenda feeds all of those sick cycles because they are sick and they live on the profit maximization, and they use the sickness to keep people dependent and all of this. The consumer has infinite power, but you don't know it. You can instantly stop being a consumer and instantly stop feeding those 100% profit-oriented corporations. So you stop feeding them and 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 start feeding your bodies and minds, and start letting off with the wrong friends and the neurotic people and all of this, and the neurotic shows and all of this, and start looking elsewhere. Start looking at nature. Go into nature, watch educational videos, watch. There's so much education now on the internet. Orient yourself towards that. Get into what interests you. Get into that, and focus on that, and talk to people about that. Detect who is neurotic. Stay away from them. Go towards those people who have something nourishing to offer to you, to offer to your minds, to your psychology, to your souls, to your bodies. Okay, and see how it feels. Compare, question people all the time. Try things out for yourselves. Don't take someone's word for it. How does it feel to listen to Eckhart Tolle versus listen to Rush Limbaugh? Okay. So just an example. How does it feel? Is there an energetic difference between these? Yeah. How does it feel to your bodies? So that's my message for the whole world. We are, each person, each one of us is responsible for making the world a better place, and it starts with the way you feed yourselves, with the affirmation that you give to yourself, with the videos you watch, with the friends you adhere to or not, with the people you trust or not trust. It really starts with that, to make the whole, everything better for all living beings. If you adhere to the wrong friend, if you adhere to a hunter, you make the world worse. If you adhere to someone nicer, you don't cater to the hunter anymore, and the hunter will be faced with the fact that what he's doing is wrong. If he's fed, he will not face it. He will not face the fact that what he's doing is wrong. You have to stop people's act outs with your decisions, And by doing that, you make the world a better place. Okay? So if you have any question, you can ask me any question, and you can ask me as many questions as you want, and for the rest of your lives if you want to. Okay, you guys take care. Peace out.